welcome to the herb garden.
Thank you.
And this land used to be very disturbed land when I first arrived here. It was literally dead corn stalks on lifeless soil. And I thought I was crazy for saying yes to this land, but I'm so glad that I did, because it has been this beautiful relationship of reciprocity between me and the land ever since then. And it's been the process of restoring the land through regenerative agriculture, but really I feel like the land has healed me more than I've healed the land. But yeah, so we have probably, I would say, 50 or more different medicinal herbs here in the gardens. And we actually grow the herbs and we sell the plants, and we sell dried herbs and fresh herbs, and we also make medicine with the plants as well. And the biggest thing that I love to do is really empower people and empower them to take the power of their own health into their own hands, instead of just immediately giving their power away to an external authority. Seeing what they can do for their own health and their own family. And so essentially we teach classes and helping people ID the plants, and not just from a book perspective, but really coming into the gardens and, you know, getting to nibble the plants and touch the plants and feel the plants is a really important process, and that's where the relationship begins. You know, it's not just about reading from a book, although reading in a book is good too, but you need to complement it with a real life experience and connection with the plant. So we have about 50 or more different kinds of herbs. Most are perennials, but we have some annuals as well. And we just really love to empower people, and we love to bring people into the garden, because you can just see all the stress and all the worries of people's lives just kind of melt away when they go, oh my gosh, look at this plant, or they smell it, or they taste it, or they learn something about it that they didn't know. But the truth is, plants are the traditional medicine. Plants have been used for over 5,000 years, and pharmaceuticals have been around for about 100. So plants are the traditional medicine. I just want to point that out. And cultures all over the world have known this. So this is where we grow all our herbs, and we have front garden beds, and we have some garden beds in the back too. That there are really wild and weedy friends. And yeah, we grow everything organically. We only practice regenerative agriculture and biodynamic agriculture, so there's no pesticides ever used here on the land, or herbicides. And everything we do, we try and, like, when we take from the land, we try and always give back to the land. So again, it's that reciprocity of keeping the balance. It was such a dry spell for a while that things were looking a little rough, but you know, because we practice biodynamics, biodynamics are really about supporting the immune system of the plants. So through the different preparations that we make and we spray in the gardens, it's really, really helped to have the immune system of the plants strong, so that when the drought came, our plants were still thriving. And people would come to the gardens and they'd say, how is everything so green here? And the answer is because part of what we do is also biodynamics, and that is giving back to the land as well, and trying to strengthen the plants. So what we do is, now these are vegetables. These are okra, growing okra in here. Okra is not an herb, and neither is zucchini, but we're just passing on through. So essentially, in the greenhouse, what we would do is we would start our seeds in here in around February or March. We would start our seeds, and then we would, you know, usually the greenhouse is completely filled with seed trays during the winter months, like February and March. and even up until the end of April and May. And then we transition all the plants outside. And then because the greenhouse is empty in the summer, I thought, well, I'll just grow some veggies in here. So my okra is very happy in here, as is my zucchini.
Yeah, they look happy.
This is where we start growing things in the greenhouse. We've also adopted the old milk jug method too, which I used to scoff at, and it works amazing. It's like better germination rate. So the milk jug method is where you cut an old milk jug in half, poke holes in the bottom, put your seed starting mix in here, and you can, like, even after as early as January 1st, you can put these outside and just let them sit for months, and they create a mini greenhouse effect. And your seeds will all start to sprout in here. You don't have to water them. You don't have to do anything. It's amazing. We still do seeds in the greenhouse too, but a lot of them we start outside in these milk jugs. So that's been a nice discovery, because the less you make it easier on yourself, the less makes more sense.
And not sitting in a, landfill.
Right. We come up to the pavilion and I can show you what we do. We start the seeds in the greenhouse, then you sow the plants in the garden in their fullest form, and then after we harvest the plants, we actually come into our farm store / drying shed. And this is where we dry our herbs. It's old school. So if you want to come on in here, I can show you. It's a little dark in here, and that's intentional.
Okay.
So we dry our herbs on screens, so they get plenty of airflow. And we have, gotta turn this fan. We have a fan up top which pulls the hot air out, and then we have fans blowing on them to dry them off soon too. And the idea is whenever you're drying herbs, you want high heat and low humidity.
Gotcha.
So there, and then behind you we have trays and trays of herbs. This is where we dry them.
Cool.
Yeah, and then the next step in the process.
What are some things you have here?
Let's see. We've got some elderberry drying. Gotta look at the labels because they look different once they're dry. We've got some spearmint. Got some anise hyssop, some tulsi. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of tulsi because it's that time of year, tulsi season. And then we have lots of herbs in here too. So we've got some calendula drying in here. And it looks tiny, but it starts out as a full flower and then shrinks up, of course. And so this is where we dry all our herbs.
Awesome.
This is tulsi.
Aww.
My favorite herb. And my favorite dog. Hi, sweetie girl. How'd you get outside? I didn't even know you were out here. So once we dry the herbs, I was going to show you once we get to the garden pavilion, we garble them. And garbling them makes them in this form, the cut and sift form. And this is how people buy them. So here's some of our lavender. And here's some of the herbs that we sell. And we have an online store as well. And it's nice because we harvest everything now so that all winter long we have herbs to choose from even when there's nothing available in the gardens. And these are the tinctures that we make everything from tinctures to elixirs to oxymels and infused honeys. And we just go by what's seasonally available. We sell them all ourselves, actually. For honey, I mean, we have a friend who's a local honey maker. Yeah. And we have things like, herb-infused oils here. We'll sell herbs for tea as well. But it's nice because I have so much of the local community calling me up. Hey, can I stop by the store? Hey, my family's sick. What do you have to recommend? And so I'm really a community herbalist where You know, people come to me for the herbs and they know the quality is amazing because they can come to the gardens themselves. They can taste it, they can sample it, they can have tea. So people really know the quality they're getting, and they know that, you know, our herbs don't sit more than a month or two before they're moved out. And so, you know, fresh local herbs is really important because some, you know, herbs are so popular now that they travel from so far away. There's no way they can have the freshness and quality that local herbs do.
Right.
So that's the drying shed, and I'll show you the garbling.
Perfect.
That's of interest.
So you said you're kind of a community herbalist. How did you get your start?
Well, basically, I started going to herbal gatherings, and it was such a voracious appetite. This was 20 years ago. I would go to herbal gatherings, and I would go to like 5 or 6 a year. And every herbal gathering, it was like Rosemary Gladstar, and I would just take as many classes as I possibly could. Some people like to focus on one herbal teacher at a time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I wanted to learn from as many different teachers as I could. And so I went to herbal gatherings for years up and down the East Coast, as many as I could attend. And then after that, I just realized that I was growing my own food. I'm like, well, why aren't I growing my own medicine? And every time I would go to an herbal conference, I would hear, and this was back 10, 15, 20 years ago, we don't have enough herbal growers. We don't have enough herbal growers. And that was even before herbs really just had this resurgence into the mainstream. And so I always loved growing things, and I decided to start growing my own herbs and making my own medicine. I thought, why buy tinctures at the health food store when I can go ahead and make it myself? So that's what I started doing. And then I ended up working for Dr. Jim Duke, who wrote the Green Pharmacy Garden book, and he's no longer alive, but he's a renowned elder, world-renowned ethnobotanist who I learned so much from. And I tended his medicinal herb gardens for many years. So I really got to take that next step into what it is to be a grower on that scale. And so I ended up working for Jim and learning a whole lot and making all these connections, because herbalists from all over the world and all over the country would come to the Green Pharmacy Garden. So it was this real hub where I just made so many connections. And so from there, I came here and started my own. I mean, I had been growing herbs for years, but this is the largest scale I've ever done, is taking this leap. And I love it. I've been doing it ever since. And I teach classes, like I said, because I love to empower people. And I just love sharing the land with people and helping people connect with the plants as these amazing, wise, phenomenal beings that they are. It's just really cool. It's really cool to be able to have that be my livelihood.
I'd say.
Come in, Tulsi.
Aww.
And so I'll just show you a little bit about how we process the herbs. So once we've harvested the herbs, we start them from seed in the greenhouse, then you got to see the garden, you got to see where we dry the herbs. Well, the next step is called garbling. It's a really funny word, and it just means rubbing the stems of the plant and the leaves over top of the screen, and then when you lift the tray up, you have cut and sift herbs ready to go, ready to be sold. And so we use garbling screens here. And we also have a table which we can do it on because we have several interns. So that way several people can be garbling different herbs at once. And I'm lucky to have a local carpenter friend who made these for me. But that's basically how we process them. And after that, you got to see the finished product, which was in the jars in the farm store. And this is where we do a lot of classes. And I also have an herb grower school. So because I knew that we didn't have enough herb growers, I decided to start a 10-month program where I could teach people from start to finish in the greenhouse in March all the way through to October, November, so they could see the full circle of growing. And so it's called Full Circle Herb Grower School. And essentially that's what we do. They get to see every single aspect. And whether they want to have a big business or a small business, it's really an opportunity to learn everything about growing herbs. And then we also weave in biodynamics and permaculture and every aspect of regenerative agriculture. We talk about finding your niche, what works for you. So, you know, some people are in the city, some people have a small suburban backyard, and then some people have land. So we really like to cater to each person's unique situation. And to tell people that it doesn't have to be big. I mean, it could be a raised bed in your backyard where you grow one herb and then someone else in their backyard grows another, and then we collaborate together so that we've all got it, because no one person can grow enough herbs. And that's why a lot of the herbs come now currently from India, Croatia, Poland, and it's just you don't know the quality when it has to travel that far, how long it's sat, what the conditions were. So it's really good to support locally grown herbs or to grow them your own. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much our whole process from start to finish, from seed. We use seeds that are all seeds that we save. And if we don't have any that we save and we buy them, we buy from organic seed producers only that we know. And we also like to buy a lot of rare heirloom seeds as well, so we can continue those on. And but we don't really have to buy many seeds because honestly we save so many of our seeds. And it's just a constant process of giving back to the land. And so with biodynamics, it's really nice because now that we're making our own preparations, it's taken the land to another level. It's taken the gardens to a whole nother level that it hadn't before. Well, I actually, I've been doing biodynamic farming for probably 5 years, and I've been growing for many years, but it was tiptoeing into it. You know what I mean? This is my 8th year here on the land, but I was growing 15 years ago.
Right.
Grew many years organically, still do, but didn't get into biodynamics. And then I found out about it and I was like, oh, this seems a little far out and it seems woo-woo, but I had heard enough about it that I wanted to try it. And there's lots of different preps. There's Korean natural farming, like there's all kinds of preps that people swear by. But the aspect that I loved about it, biodynamics, is that it weaves in connection with life. I mean, there's really a spiritual and energetic component that is not looked at in regular organic farming. It's very practical and hands-on, which I appreciate, but it kind of takes out of the equation that, like, this is the green life force moving through every living thing, that viriditas, you know? And so because of that life force, it's how can we strengthen the life force? And how can we really work with the rhythm of what's going on in the moon and the sun and the constellations? And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, ever since I started making my own preps and really doing them every month and going more full hog the last few years, it's just like night and day. I'm just blown away. So, you know, I think a lot of people I know start off skeptical and then they try it and they're like, oh wow, this really works. And the preparations are using herbs that you already have or grow anyways. Some of the things require, you know, animal parts and things like that just don't work for me because I don't have them on hand. So I pick the ones that are easiest and the most accessible for me. And then the others, I'll go ahead and buy those from a local producer. But for the most part, I just do, 3 or 4 preps on my own. But it's all about paying attention to the moon cycles. It's all about paying attention to the constellations. And that not only translates into the garden, but it also translates into your life. Because we are cyclical creatures, we definitely feel the tides of the moon. We feel the seasons of the year in our bodies, because we are nature too. And so with Biodynamics, it just kind of brought everything together for me into one neat little package. And it's not like Biodynamics is the first. Obviously, indigenous cultures all over the world have paid attention to planting by the moon, and the Old Farmer's Almanac talks about that as well, and what the constellations mean in terms of their impact on the plants. And so if you want to get the most optimal medicinal value from your plants and you want the healthiest, most vibrant plants possible, why not work in rhythm? What's going to make it be its most vibrant? And so I don't cut corners on those kinds of things, and it makes a difference. I mean, people taste my herbs and they say, my gosh, this is what peppermint tastes like? I've never tasted peppermint like this. And so it really does make a difference. I've had people again and again, year after year, who come back and buy herbs from me because they just say the difference is like night and day between herbs that they've had mail ordered from somewhere far away.
Right. It's awesome.
So, yeah, very in tune with the local ecosystem, and I'm always furthering ways that I can cultivate my habitat even more vibrant. So, it's not just sticking plants in the ground. It's building a relationship with the plants, and it's cultivating an ecosystem. So putting a pond in, having nesting boxes, having bat boxes, having water trays filled with water for the bees, planting pollinator plants and things that are going to definitely attract the hummingbirds and the butterflies and the bees. Calling it done and saying, what can you give me? You're actually cultivating habitat. And so that's what I've been doing here on this land for the past 8 years, is cultivating habitat. And I listen to the land a lot. It's a muscle that you need to practice. We have all these distractions in the world. And the first tip is turn off your phone for at least, an hour. Go outside wherever you live, whether it's near a park, or if you have some woods or a tree in your backyard. Turn off your phone all the way so that it's not beeping and making noise. And sit down and just listen. And at first it'll feel a little weird and a little contrived, or, oh, am I doing it right? This feels strange. But then over time, the plants will actually start talking to you. And they'll guide you. And they'll tell you what they like. They'll tell you what they don't like. But it is a muscle that you need to strengthen. And so now there's sometimes I might go to do something, like harvest a plant, and it'll be like, no. I don't want to be harvested right now. And it could be that it doesn't feel strong, or it could be that we've already harvested a lot recently, or it could be it doesn't like that location and it wants to be moved. But the plants will talk to you if they'll listen. They're sentient beings just like every other sentient being in this natural world. And it's just a matter of getting into the practice of listening and not doing it once and going, I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. It doesn't work for me.
It's not going to happen right away, right?
It's not going to happen instantly.
Yeah.
It's like building a relationship. When you meet someone for the first time, you're likely going to shake their hand or just say, hi, nice to meet you. But then after you've known them and sat with them many, many times, then it might be a big hug and, hey, good to see you. It's the same thing with the plants, They've got their distinct personalities and behaviors, and so it's just not making these human assumptions and this hubris that, they're not sentient. They can problem solve, they can protect their community when they're being attacked by releasing chemicals that actually protect them and others. They can increase their scent. They can increase their attractability. So plants, because they've been around since the beginning of time, they really know a lot more than we do. They're very wise, and they've learned about adaptability in ways that we can't even imagine. And so when we take in the medicine of that plant, whether it's through a cup of tea or a tincture or even infused honey, we are actually taking in those adaptability traits and medicine that that plant has into our beings, into our bodies, into our spirit. So this is a new friend to the garden. Every year I like to introduce and get to know new friends. This is scarlet sage. The hummingbirds love scarlet sage. They are usually all over it. But you were asking me how I got hooked on herbs, and I've always loved plants, you know. Even when I was young, I always loved to grow house plants and things like that. And but I used to have really, hi sweetie, hi. I used to have really terrible allergies. So much so that I would be laid out on the couch, unable to move for days. I was allergic to grass, trees, you name it. Everything set me off. And when I was younger, I had allergy shots, I was on allergy medications, and even had deviated septum surgery to try and, you know, clear out my sinuses, and nothing worked. And then somebody mentioned to me trying stinging nettles, and I hadn't heard anything about it. You know, I would buy, this was early on when I would buy my tinctures from the store, but was still learning about it. And so I drank a cup of stinging nettle tea, and it absolutely changed my life. Literally, for at least, I don't know, 20 years now, I have not dealt with allergies. It's amazing for somebody who would be so miserable and so just down for the count with my allergies, regardless of the season. And I don't even have to take them all the time now. That's the thing about herbs. When you take them, they actually live within you and are supporting you and strengthening you, even if you're not taking them every day. So, you know, at the beginning of spring, at the beginning of fall, I might have a cup of nettle tea for a day or two, and then that's all I need.
That's it, wow.
And so that was really, I laughingly say, that was my gateway herb, because I thought to myself, if this herb can change my life this drastically, what else can? And so that's when I started really exploring all the other herbs, everything from cultivated herbs to wild ones, just like the very simple dandelion. And I've been amazed, and I'm here to say that I'm 56 years old, and I haven't had to go to the doctor or take a pharmaceutical in probably 20 years. I use the plants. This is my pharmacy. And so when I'm sick or when I need to boost my immune system, this is where I come, into my gardens. It's really important for people to know that there are alternatives and that plants have been around for a very, very long time. So they can be trusted. You still got to know what you're doing with them, but they can definitely be trusted. And I am absolutely 100% grateful to the plants that I am as healthy as I am at 56 years old, and that I haven't had to go to the doctor. And it's beyond just colds and flu. I mean, I've had deer ticks on me, I've had stepped on rusty nails, I've had some pretty serious issues, and the plants have just absolutely supported me emotionally. They've supported me physically, they've supported me mentally, they've supported me energetically. I mean, it's just amazing. So I really see them as friends and allies and teachers, just amazing teachers. The things I learned from plants when I just sit down and listen is just beyond anything I could ever read in a book.
Awesome.
So, incredibly grateful to the plants.
Amazing. Awesome.
I put this in, and now I have frogs coming. I have dragonflies. I have damselflies. And so just this tiny bit of water has created this mini ecosystem where life is thriving, even though it looks mucky. It's good stuff. And for years, I was getting the message from the land, you need water source. You need a water source here. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get around to it. And it was like year after year, I just kept getting pummeled with this message of like, you have to have a source of water here.
Wow.
So this little pond is the first step, and I've only had it a short while, and I'm already ready to put in another one. Because I'm like,
That's
it's too small, I need a bigger one. But somebody had given me this liner, so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. So when I heard my first frog, not long after I had, put this up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And when I had goldfish, it wasn't happening. And my friend's like, no, if you want a pond, you have to take the goldfish out because they'll eat everything. And as soon as I took them out and gave them to a friend, now I have a frog, my first frog. So,
amazing.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you that cultivating habitat can happen very quickly. Introducing some pollinator plants, you can very quickly get bees and butterflies. You can very quickly get hummingbirds. You can very quickly get a frog. Having a bat box. I mean, all these things can happen quick. It's not a year-long thing. And it's really important because it's this win-win. The more you enliven and strengthen the ecosystem and help support it, the happier your gardens are going to be and the stronger your medicine's going to be. The cool thing, this is so cool, Noelle, they take such pride in these plants now because they started them from a tiny, tiny seed.
Yeah.
And they got to transplant it out of the greenhouse into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They got to see it grow. They got to harvest it. They got to make medicine. And so, it's so funny because I had a class here and I was going to take some Tulsi for the class. And my interns were like, we didn't want to say anything, but there wasn't very much Tulsi there. And we were feeling very overprotective. We were like, how is she going to take all these 20 people and make medicine with them? And I listened to the plant and I sat down and I was like, you know what, you all?
You're right.
We're not making it. And they were all so happy, but it was so sweet.
Yeah, they were advocating.
They were so invested. They loved this plant so
really
much.
sweet.
They're like, there's not enough there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, so I love that. They really take pride in the plants because they have this beautiful relationship. They've been nibbling them all year long, seeing how they grow.
Incredible.
It's about relationship building for sure.